Okay, in this video, we're actually going to go in and take a look at incorporating new drivers into the WinPE. Alright, so first thing to do is download those drivers that you need. Of course, most of them will probably be Dell's. Once you get that Dell package downloaded, and we're just going to use Dell for this video, it's going to work the same on any other package you download. If it's self-extractable, it's basically zipped up. Alright, so right click this. We're going to open up that Dell package with WinZip. We're going to create a folder out here on the desktop. This one I intentionally misspelled, called drivers Z, or driver Z. Once you get this opened up in WinZip, of course you're going to be able to see all the files in there. So you just Control-A, select all of that. We can extract it, or you can just drag and drop it. Probably going to get a move and replace error. Just do this for all 17 conflicts. Upload your WinZip. Now if you open up your driver Z, you'll be able to see everything that you just extracted. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is look at the actual driver support. Okay, so if we go to version, most drivers will have a version attached to them. Inside the version log, we'll actually be able to see the OS that it supports here. Okay, and just for this bit of information, you can see that we're supporting both 64 and 30 GB drivers all the way up to Windows 7, which includes server support. Alright, so we have those drivers extracted. We're going to open up our Ghost Boot Wizard. You can find that in the Ruby the Ghost folder in the program files. Our pre-OS type is going to be Windows PE. We're not worried about PC-DOS or MS-DOS or Linux for that matter. If we want Windows PE, we're going to click on Edit. We're going to choose the 512. The difference between 512 is for systems that have less than 512 mega memory, you want to use PE. But if most systems have more than 512 mega RAM, you want to use WinPE 512. Okay, so that's over 512 mega RAM, use WinPE 512. And of course, we're going to edit this template. Editor. Once you get the template, this is our network drivers. Now, a lot of times when you boot this system up, you're going to get an error. Like if you get a runtime error and it won't load, that's probably due to the 82801 SATA RAID controller. So you can actually turn this off if you're getting errors and the disk won't boot. But for this demonstration, we're going to leave everything selected. What you need to remember is don't come in here and start mucking when checking these boxes in the storage drivers, and don't come in here and start checking everything here, because you can create a lot of different errors. So for that tidbit of information, don't start checking stuff. Alright, we want to add new drivers, so click on Add New Driver. Go ahead and click on Browse. We're going to choose our driver Z and then click OK. Alright, so here's our friendly name. Now if we come over here and look, these names that you see here, where it says Broadcom 3C90X, that's the friendly name. So whatever you type here is going to show up as a friendly name. So if I type driver Z, that's going to show up as a friendly name. And applicable OSs, I just showed you how to check that in the version. So if you come in here and you start, checking up 64-bit all the way back, whatever your drivers support, go ahead and check those, and then click OK. For this demonstration, I'm going to click Cancel. Once you click OK, scroll down. Of course, we named ours driver Z, so it's going to come up as driver Z. Alright, that's a friendly name. Now, in order for you to include this in the PE build, you're going to need to place a check mark in here. Alright, once you place that check mark in there, you can add more drivers, you can take away drivers, you can do whatever you want to. This is your driver manager. If it's storage and you hit add new driver, it's going to automatically populate in your storage too. So you would see a driver Z storage driver in here, so you can come in here and click on driver Z. Of course, I only incorporated a NIC driver, so therefore it's only going to be under network. Once you do that, make sure you have that check mark in there on the drivers that you add, and then click OK. For this demonstration, I'm not going to click OK because that process can take up to 15, maybe 20 minutes. I really don't want that. Alright, so once it goes through its ordeal of extracting that and then re-importing everything and add your drivers to the actual image. What we want to do is ensure that WinPE 512 is selected and click OK. For this demonstration, I'm going to click cancel. Alright, so once you go through that entire wizard, it's going to bring you right back to the front screen again. We want to make sure that WinPE 512 is selected. We don't want to edit it. We've already added our drivers. We can go ahead and hit next in the wizard. Alright, so in this screen you're going to use standard GhostPE Disk. Ensure that you don't melt with any of this other stuff because we're going to use a standard GhostPE Disk. So click next. Semantic Ghost, this is your only option, and of course it's going to call the Ghost32 executable. Just simply click next. Computer name, all this, leave it blank simply because we're going to connect DHCP. That'll be self-explanatory in the next screen. Alright, so on the next screen we're going to choose DHCP. We'll assign an IP address simply because we have a DHCP server running that's issuing out IP addresses to each one of the session clients. So click next. Here we're going to create an ISO just because we're going to burn it. You can use Miro, Power ISO, whatever you have that burns ISOs to burn it to disk later on. So here we're going to give it an image name. We're just going to call it test image. Alright, so that's good. We're going to choose to save that test image to our desktop as an ISO version. Okay, and do not check support for bootable CDs and DVDs. Just click next. Alright, so here if I wanted to add another document in there, I could create a new text document and I could say changes, and then inside of changes I can add drivers CPAC. This is basically you can add other files. Okay, here I did a supported Dell text to show that I supported the other Dells. Okay, so if we wanted to add this change log to our disk, we can click on add, come down here, changes, click open, and then of course we're just going to put it in the root of the actual disk, and this adds that document to the disk. So we can go in and create notes, keep a running log of all of our change logs, things of that nature, and just put them right into the root. For this demonstration, I'm going to keep my supported Dells.txt again. So just click next. Alright, so here comes the more complex part. Okay, when we come in here and if we were to just build this disk now, what would happen is the disk would boot. Once it comes up, it would execute Ghost32. Once Ghost32 is executed, it would stop there and wait on user interaction. What we're going to do is we're actually going to start editing this batch document, and we're going to change that function. Alright, I don't want it to just stop and wait on me to come in and tell it what to do. I want it to automatically connect to my session. Alright, so I've created a batch file. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to paste this here. When you go to paste in this batch, you're going to have to use the Control-D function in order to get it to paste in there. Okay, so there's a couple of things that we really have to pay attention to when we create this batch. This section down here doesn't necessarily have to be here. Okay, I'm going to put that in there just simply to allow you to boot the machine, to restart the machine. You can auto restart it, but here I'm just going to prompt to restart so the technician will know it's complete. The Ghost Walker section, I put that in there, but we're not going to Ghost Walk after this, especially if you have an image that's been sysprepped and shut down. You don't want to Ghost Walk after this. I recommend creating 3 separate disks for this process. 1, to deploy an image, auto connect. 2, to capture an image, auto connect. And then 3, to push an image that's not been sysprepped, and then auto Ghost Walk it after it's been pushed to change the scenes. So for this demonstration, we're not going to use that command. Alright, so basically this is all default. This will be in there once you hit next, except for the echo off. This section is automatically going to be populated for you. So really what you need to add is this section here. Okay? Alright, so what we want to do is find out what these settings are going to be. the source, that's your source disk, and then the destination. This is your session, to show you what that's going to look like. If I were to create a session name, and of course I'm going to create an image because that's what we're doing here. If you look, it'll say create. Okay, so this disk will only create auto create images. Alright, so I'm going to give it a session name for this instance 1. Alright, so I'm creating an image, and I want to place that image on my desktop, and I want to call that image source, and I'll just call source 1. Okay, so that's where the image is going to get saved to. My desktop, source 1. Alright, once it captures the image, it's going to save it to my desktop. Alright, I want to choose a disk because I want to capture disk. And now I want to choose a disk number 1. And now we can see very familiar text. We can see clone node, create source disk 1, and then this is my actual session name. Okay, so source disk is this. So if I change this to 2, my source disk changes to 2. So therefore I have to come over here and edit my badge. Alright, so I'm going to keep it at source disk 1. And then here we can see MC1. Right, so the 1 is my session name. If I change my session name to session, now I have MC session, and I would have to change MC1 here to MC session. So, however, whatever standard you're using to build your session names should always remain the same, and the disk will fail if you change that session name on the box from the server. So make sure when you build this batch, you're looking at your GhostCast server. How are you creating your sessions? What are the names? Are they always disk 1? These are things you need to ask yourself. So at this point, what we do is this must match. So for our case scenario, we're just going to find that's going to be our session name, okay, and it's always going to be source disk 1. So this should be the commands that we put in a batch. Okay, so clone mode, create source 1, that's, and then of course your session name, and then give it a sure/sure. Alright, and that's going to guarantee success when it goes to connect to the server. And of course, everybody knows the server portion must be accepting clients in order for this to connect on the client side. Alright, so once we've identified how to create this batch, this is the only thing you need to put into your batch. And again, you can take this section of it out, because all that's going to do is it's going to prompt you to press any key to restart that client machine. So, with that being said, this is what we need to change in the batch. It must read this way. So, we're going to click next here. Okay, and it's going to go through the process, and it's going to create us an ISO. Okay, I'm going to go pause this video until the ISO is created. Okay, and once it's finished, you'll see a banner pop up. Just click on finish, and you'll see your actual ISO out here on your desktop. Okay, so if we take a look in our ISO, you'll see supported details. That's a manual text that I put in. Okay, and it just shows what updates I've put into the actual driver support package for this particular disk. And you can put in however you want, whatever you want there. But for the biggest portion, you don't have to worry about any of this other stuff. Just know that you can add those individual text documents in there, or images, or whatever it is you're looking to put in for support. You can add driver documents, driver files in there, whatever you need. Okay, so in the next video, I'll actually go in and we'll test this ISO that we just made out, and we'll do it on the virtual machine, make a loop to this server, and make sure that we can actually capture from it. Alright, so go ahead and when you're ready, open up the next video tutorial.